We're gonna work on the F-150. After I sold the red car, now I have freed up some space in the garage and got the, Jesus, got a bunch of crap in here. Got the F-150 in here. I was actually surprised it fit. I didn't think it would fit, but I'm really happy that it did. And the reason I have it in here is because I wanted to do some upgrades to it. It's been a while since I worked on the truck. It's pretty much been stock with just some wheels and tires. And I got a bunch of crap everywhere. Look at that. I'm using it like a storage. So I'm trying to get this thing, work on it, because if I leave it here too long, it'll just have a pile of shit. I'm gonna install a 2018 Mustang manifold and a PMAS cold air intake. I got in touch with Beefcake Racing, and they sent me a PMAS cold air intake system for F-150. This is pretty much how it's gonna look once it's installed. It's a very straightforward setup. Why? Because there's no MAF sensor. Technically, they do have a MAF sensor slot for 11 or 14 Gen 1 F-150, but because this is gonna be speed density, all this stuff is gonna pretty much be straightforward. I like the big S&B filter that's on it. It's got a little window, show off the filter if you're into that sort of stuff. But the system is pretty straightforward with a couple of boots, a couple of things that you need for install. So basically, I'm gonna see if I can improve on the 12.7 that the truck ran with a stock manifold, basically stock just with the E85 tune and race stars. So the 18 manifold is gonna have the IMRCs locked out. And I wonder if that's gonna actually affect the 60 foot time. The best 60 foot time this truck ever cut was a 1.97. So if we're gonna lock out the IMRCs, it'd be interesting to see if I can improve or at least duplicate the 1.97. If I can, and I can shift the truck at 7,500 or 7,600 as opposed to 7,000 or 6,800 with the stock manifold, it should gain a decent amount. I'll see how much of a pain in the butt it is to install the MAP sensor on the 18 manifold, because the 18 Mustangs are not MAP based, they're MAF with a mass airflow sensor. So we'll see how it all goes. I'll try to document the process as quickly as I can, then get out there, do some draggy hits, review some data logs. Probably gonna take most of the day. So gonna go ahead and do that, start getting everything torn down. I'll do a quick time lapse and then get after it with some draggy stuff just to see if there's any improvement in the quarter mile with the 18 Mustang manifold and the PMAS cold air intake system. All right, so I might be screwed on this deal only because I noticed that there's these lines that go to the brake booster, go to the cold air, and I'm sure they rely on that for vacuum in order to have brakes. Then we have PCV stuff, and unfortunately all these lines also tie into the IMRC system, and I am not gonna sit here and start plugging stuff and start making brand new lines in order to reroute or negate the IMRC stuff. It's actually a lot more work to start getting rid of IMRC stuff than to just reuse it. So I'm gonna see if I can reuse the IMRCs from the stock manifold to the 18 manifold. Probably can, probably can't, who knows. I'll kind of cross that bridge when I get to it. But you know, a lot of people will tell you, oh, this is a quick and easy job. They're full of shit. Just like the people that say swapping an LS cam into a car's 20 minutes. No, figuring half of this stuff out is going to take a decent amount of time. Some of you guys that just break, cut, plug stuff, I don't do that. I'm just not that guy. I want everything to work as factory as possible. So we'll see how everything goes.
¡Claro que sí! ¡Sí,
Okay, for the most part, got everything out, got the fuel rail out, fuel injectors, disconnected everything. I think I disconnected both IMRC connections in the back, but I'm sure that once I take the manifold halfway out, there's going to be some connections left over, like the map sensor I can't really see or reach, but figure it out once I get it unbolted and see what's left hanging. Obviously, there's a bunch of stuff in there that I gotta make sure it doesn't get into the combustion chamber. But yeah, it's been about, say, 15 minutes, and keep chugging along. That's the problem. Oh gosh, there's a huge harness back there. I can't. How am I gonna get to that? All right, let me figure that sucker out. So I am gonna leave the IMRC off after seeing what has to happen to transfer over the IMRC. I think it'll be a good test anyway, just to see how much of a difference it makes. But all this wiring is gonna be null and void, except that guy right there. That'll be the map sensor. There's your map sensor. Bone stock. I'm not gonna switch over to the boosted unit yet because I'm not sure if this thing is gonna go boosted. Honestly, the whole turbo thing is still up in the air. But let me go ahead, make provisions for that, goop it up because there's no O-ring provision for that on the other manifold, and I'll show you the difference side by side. But let me keep vacuuming on this side to get all the crap out of there so it doesn't fall into the combustion chamber. Bring it over to the bed. It's heavy. Not like super heavy, but heavier than you think, you know? Okay, so, oh Jesus, there goes everything. So this is, excuse me, the truck manifold. Let me put this guy here out of the way. This is the Mustang manifold. We're gonna do a side by side, and oh yeah, it's a big difference. If you guys wanted to kind of get a side by side comparison, obviously the F150 runners are a little taller. If you can put a straight edge across it, you'll see that it's slightly taller. Obviously, these are lockouts, so all this IMRC stuff is not going to be all these plugs, so it's going to be a total of 1, 2, and it goes to another harness, so there should be 3 or something else like that down here. Yeah, 1, 2, 3. So those will not be plugged in, so I got to be mindful of that, that's not going to even matter. And anything different with the throttle body area? I don't know, it looks pretty much the same shit to me. Right? There's not a huge difference in terms of throttle body area, in terms of how it necks up. Gen 3 seems to be Gen 3, doesn't really matter. So make sure I got all my O-rings in here. Yes sir, got all my O-rings in there, 8 of them. And transfer over the throttle body, put this intake on, see what I have to do to reorient some of the lines and not waste too much time with that, because we got to get draggy testing, and this video cannot be more than 15 minutes long, or maybe 20 minutes long at most. So we'll see what has to happen with all this shit here once I delete the IMRC. Guys, we talk about catch cans and octane all the time, and this truck does not have a catch can system, and you can see what's happening. It's sucking in oil because the PCV system probably not too efficient, and as you can see, it can get really caked up in there. So even on a bone stock truck, guys, this was a bone stock truck in terms of the everything really, and it definitely needs some kind of catch can setup so that oil doesn't make its way into the combustion chamber. As you can see, it's not exactly the cleanest setup. I think it has only 30,000 miles or so, probably running on pump gas most of its life, and as you can tell, it definitely needs a catch can setup. So guys, do yourselves a favor, get yourselves a catch can always on any Coyote, even if it's stock. The map sensor has an O-ring seal, and if that's the case, like he said, he's like, just wow, sticker's in there. Let me get some muscle. There we go. So as you can see, has an O-ring seal, and the F150 manifold has provisions for it, but guess what doesn't? The 18 manifold. So I'm looking at this crease up here, and the map sensor seems to be not that far from that crease, so I'm gonna have to drill something here, bring it up as high as possible. Oh, look at that. Is that oil? Boy, if that's oil, that would be amazing. That tells you how much oil a Coyote sucks up. Let me see. Yep, look at that. It's oil. Crazy. The map sensor is full of oil. That tells you that a stock Coyote 100% needs a catch can system, because my god, this thing was absolutely chock full of oil. Anyway, I'm gonna try to basically make a hole in this guy somewhere probably in that area. It marked it, and as for bolting, I'm gonna have to make a hole that's on the smaller side to see if this can kind of thread itself in. So I'll measure that with the drill and make sure that it's proper. But it's gonna sit, let me see, somewhere like that, maybe. It's gonna sit something like that, because if it sits lower than this, it might hit the fuel rail, I'm sorry, the direct injector fuel rail. So you gotta be mindful of that it doesn't stick too far down, so that when you put this guy on there, like maybe something like that, out of the way so that it's not hanging down at all. I might have to buzz this guy off, heyo, or cock it in such a way, heyo. Probably cock it and then maybe get rid of that rib. Bolt it down, goop it up, see how it goes. Okay, so what I'm hoping is that this is going to be adequate. All right, bolted it down. It's kind of at an angle that I might be able to get the map sensor plugged in easily, and I'm hoping, I'm a little suspect on this guy right here, because I think this is where the DI stuff goes, but man, that'd be nice if it just fit in there, because it's on there, but I'm gonna make sure that I let the RTV set. Basically, it's all RTV'd in there, because the O-ring doesn't have an O-ring groove like this guy does. But gonna let it set for 15 to 20 minutes. Try to put it in there as gingerly as possible, and then see how the rest of the install goes. All right, it's gooped up, so the goop will settle. It's not interfering anywhere, so that's a good look. So here we go. That's what it looks like installed, basically. All right, so now I'm gonna connect everything. 6 bolts for the manifold, 4 bolts for the injectors, injector harness, PMAS cold air install, and tuning. Hopefully by that time everything's set properly, then the tuning, and then we should be good to go and see if the draggy shows a loss in the 60 foot time with the 18 manifold. So apparently everything fit where it should be. Now, because there's no IMRC stuff anywhere, I wonder if there's going to be a vacuum leak somewhere. But this guy goes here. These lines all went where they went previously in their respective spots. Cold air, brake booster. So hopefully, I'm hoping, crossing my fingers, that I did this right. All I have to do, just like I do to customers, is shut off the IMRC configuration as if I'm tuning it with a Boss intake manifold or anything else that doesn't have IMRCs. The tuning will be on point. And now let's install the cold air, see how all that looks. Alrighty, I think, not 100%, but I think I'm done. So the PMAS cold air intake system utilizes the stock snorkel situation, which I do like, because at speed, it's gonna simply see fresh air as opposed to a in the cabin cold air intake. I'm sorry, in the engine bay cold air intake sucking in manifold air. But right here, this is basically what the finished product looks like. I like the fact that they have a nice little window, cool looking. If anything, it's just a cool looking piece, but I think they did a very smart thing of utilizing the stock stuff, which isn't too restrictive. If you see how this is built, it's not too restrictive actually. What the restriction was mostly was the filter and the angle that the air entered the stock cold air. Then it necks down, necks up. Nice little transition here, bump. If you guys know anything about PMAS, they have you know, it's kind of like a bump that looks like a dick on their other stuff, but this one is on the smaller side. Good transition. Hopefully we'll see some gains with it today. It is kind of raining, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to make a test hit today, but I got everything in. Injector harnesses in, map sensors plugged in, injectors are in, fuel rail pressure sensor, all of the connections seem to go somewhere, so that's good. It's good to see that I don't have any leftover connections or anything like that. So let me get a tune on it with the deleted IMRC. Hopefully it starts, hopefully it fuels properly. We'll data log it right here so we don't have to take it out on the street. And if it clears up a little bit, go out there, make a draggy hit, and see if we can beat the 12.7. But more importantly, in my opinion, see if we can duplicate or improve the 60-foot that was a 1.97 with a stock manifold.
30, 60, quarter mile,
Wow, 2/10. Holy shit. That's a big improvement. Well, there you go. We had a 3/10 improvement basically on the truck with an 18 manifold and a PMAS cold air intake. Pretty impressive if you ask me, from just a pretty simple setup, and the shifts were happening all at 7,600 RPM or so. So 3/10 is big improvements on especially a big truck like that, and I didn't really lose much on the 60-foot time. So if you guys want to get an 18 manifold coupled with a aftermarket cold air, in this case a PMAS, definitely worth it. And the proof's in the pudding. Thanks for listening, guys. Talk to you later.